vacation time, so they stay at a hotel that has their name written all over it, where kids always stay free, and they always feel at home. There's coffee to get them going, and free fun packs, all at a Howard Johnson kind of price. We have a great name to live up to. Howard Johnson makes you feel at home.
As I look out in the audience, I realize that some of you may even remember Howard Johnson's restaurants. How many of you remember Howard Johnson's restaurants? Well, I was working in the advertising business, and a big moment in my life came when I had the opportunity to work on Howard Johnson's. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven, because I grew up as a child wearing a menu cap, if anyone remembers this. This was actually a menu cap that you could wear as a child. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I got to work with them in their last 6 months of existence. Now, I wasn't fully responsible for that. What was amazing to me is while I was working with them, we'd be in Quincy, Massachusetts at the beginning of the week talking about taking a quarter of an inch off of a straw to save $17,000 a month. We'd talk about going from a 4-ply napkin to a 2-ply napkin to save X number of dollars a month. In fact, Howard Johnson's was known, and I didn't work with them in this period of time. I'm not quite that old. But they were known for 28 flavors of ice cream. We're talking about the commissary and problems with getting rum raisin flavoring out of the system. So let's drop 3 flavors. And I lean over to the marketing VP and I said, what do we do about the claim? And he said, don't worry about it. We'll just tell people we're out. It was all about value extraction. No one was thinking about value creation for the customer. No one understood what these clues and signals meant. And then I would leave there and I would head down and work on another project where they were very clued in Orlando, Florida. And this changed my life forever. It was like I was struck by lightning. I will never, ever be the same. Because here, we were talking about the temperature and the velocity of the wind blowing in your face on spaceship Earth. At Howard Johnson's, they weren't even aware there was oxygen. Talking about the temperature that an ice cream bar should be kept at, because when it melts in your hand, it feels horrible. And in a 5-year-old's hands, it's even worse. And ice cream bars melt faster in the summer in Florida than they do in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The smell of chocolate chip cookies pumped out onto Main Street. Main Street, designed on a Hollywood perspective, what is called a forced perspective. So when you come in the morning, it looks like it goes on forever and ever and ever. And at night, when your feet are tired and swollen, it looks like a very short walk. But to be so clued in, so sensitive to the clues and signals and what feelings they cause. And it's no wonder that a cartoonist who understood that you have 4 frames to create an emotional connection would embed these clues into the experience. So I became fascinated by why people parted with cash to the mouse and why people would go there. How many here have been to Disney more than 5 times? It's astounding.
Hi, this is Sean. Today we're talking about Howard Johnson's history. Early years. In 1925, Howard Deering Johnson borrowed $2,000 to buy and operate a small corner pharmacy in Wollaston, a neighborhood in Quincy, Massachusetts. Johnson was surprised to find it easy to pay back the money lent to him. After discovering his recently installed soda fountain had become the busiest part of his drugstore, eager to ensure that his store would remain successful, Johnson decided to devise a new ice cream recipe. Some sources say the recipe was based on his mother's homemade ice creams and desserts, while others say that it was from a local German immigrant who either sold or gave Johnson the ice cream recipe. The new recipe made the ice cream more flavorful due to increased butterfat content. Eventually, Johnson created 28 flavors of ice cream. He is quoted as saying, "I thought I had every flavor in the world. That 28 flavors of ice cream became my trademark." Throughout the summers of the late 1920s, Johnson opened concession stands on beachfront property along the coast of Massachusetts. The stands sold soft drinks, hot dogs, and ice cream. Each stand was successful, with his success becoming more noticeable every year. Johnson convinced local bankers to lend him funds to operate a sit-down restaurant. Negotiations were made, and toward the end of the decade, the first Howard Johnson's restaurant opened in Quincy. It featured fried clams, baked beans, chicken pot pies, frankfurters, ice cream, and soft drinks. The first Howard Johnson's received a tremendous boost in 1929, owing to an unusual set of circumstances. The mayor of nearby Boston, Malcolm Nichols, banned the production of Eugene O'Neill's play Strange Interlude in Boston. Rather than fight the mayor, the Theater Guild moved the production to Quincy. The 5-hour play was presented in 2 parts with a dinner break. The first Howard Johnson's restaurant was near the theater, and hundreds of influential Bostonians flocked to the restaurant. Through word of mouth, more Americans became familiar with the Howard Johnson's Company. Expansion in the 1930s and 40s. Johnson wanted to expand his company, but the stock market crash of 1929 prevented this. After waiting a few years and maintaining his business, Johnson persuaded an acquaintance in 1932 to open a second Howard Johnson's restaurant in Orleans, Massachusetts. The second restaurant was franchised and not company-owned. This was one of America's first franchising agreements. By the end of 1936, there were 39. By the end of 1936, there were 39 more franchised restaurants, creating a total of 41 Howard Johnsons. By 1939, there were 107 Howard Johnsons along American East Coast highways, generating revenues of $10.5 million. In less than 14 years, Johnson directed a franchise network of over 10,000 employees with 170 restaurants, many serving 1.5 million people a year. The unique icons of orange roofs and cupolas and weather vanes on Howard Johnson's properties helped patrons identify the chain's restaurants and motels. The restaurant's trademark Simple Simon and the Pieman logo was created by artist John Alcott in the 30s. There were 200 Howard Johnson's restaurants when America entered World War II. By 1944, only 12 Howard Johnsons remained in business. The effects of war rationing had crippled the company. Johnson managed to maintain his business by serving commissary food to war workers and U.S. Army recruits. When the Pennsylvania Turnpike and later the Ohio Turnpike, New Jersey Turnpike, and Connecticut Turnpike were built, Johnson bid for and won exclusive rights to serve drivers at service station turnoffs through the turnpike systems. In the process of recovering from those losses, in 1947, Howard Johnson's company began construction of 200 new restaurants throughout the American Southeast and Midwest. By 1951, the sales of Howard Johnson's company totaled $115 million. Entering the hotel business. By 1954, there were 400 Howard Johnson's restaurants in 32 states, about 10% of which were extremely profitable company-owned turnpike restaurants. The rest were franchises. This was one of the first nationwide restaurant chains. While many places sold fried clams, they were whole, which was not universally accepted by the American dining public. Howard Johnson popularized the Southern Brothers Clam Company's fried clam strips, the foot of hard-shelled sea clams. They became popular to eat in this fashion throughout the country. In 1954, the company opened the first Howard Johnson's Motor Lodge in Savannah, Georgia. The company employed architects Rufus Nims and Carl Koch to oversee the design of the rooms in Gate Lodge. Nims had previously worked with the company designing restaurants. The restaurant's trademark Simple Simon and the Pieman was now joined by a lamplighter character in the firm's marketing of its motels. According to cultural historians, the chain became synonymous with travelers among American motorists and vacationers, in part because of Johnson's ubiquitous outdoor advertising displays. So, that's it for part 1. This is a part, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Give me a comment and a like. Part 2 of the history of Howard Johnson. In 1959, Howard Deering Johnson, who had founded and managed the company since 1925, turned control over to his son, then 26-year-old Howard Brennan Johnson. The elder Johnson observed his son's running of the company until his death in 1972 at the age of 75. Howard Johnson's company went public in 1961. There were 605 restaurants, 265 company-owned, and 340 franchised, as well as 88 franchised Howard Johnson's motor lodges in 32 states and the Bahamas. In 1961, Johnson hired New York chefs Pierre Franny and Jacques Pepin to oversee food development at the company's main commissary in Brockton, Massachusetts. Franny and Pepin developed recipes for the company's signature dishes that could be flash frozen and delivered across the country, guaranteeing a consistent product. While the landmark Bolton-Brown v. Board of Education decision by the United States Supreme Court in 1944 struck down segregation in public schools, the segregation and maintenance of whites-only public facilities continued in other domains, including the Howard Johnson chain. Segregation in Howard Johnson's restaurants provoked an international crisis in 1957 when a Howard Johnson eatery in Dover, Delaware refused service to Kamola, the finance minister of Ghana, prompting a public apology from President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, was instrumental in organizing protests and sit-ins at Howard Johnson's locations in multiple states. The city of Durham, including the Howard Johnson's restaurant on Chapel Hill Boulevard, culminating in multiple protests on 18 to the 20th May 1963, resulting in mass arrests as well as an eventual rapprochement with the city government. Future Senator and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, while a student at the University of Chicago in 1962, helped organize picketing of a Howard Johnson's location in Cicero, Illinois during his time as student activist for CORE. Okay, that concludes our part 2 of the history of Howard Johnson's. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.
There's a place in Lake George, New York, where the past is a thing of the present.
That's the original roof?
That is the original orange roof, yes it is.
And you have the weather vane up there still.
Yeah.
Howard Johnson's, founded near Boston in 1925 by Howard D. Johnson, was once the biggest restaurant chain in the country.
On the road around the corner, here's the place to go. The orange roof of Howard Johnson's. Join the folks who know.
With roughly 1,000 locations during the 1970s.
Should I bring some desserts? Yes, how about some pie?
No, you know what? Just 3 scoops of orange sherbet and 2 spoons.
The sherbet and the ice cream were staples for so many Americans growing up in the Mad Men era.
Welcome to Howard Johnson's.
And even younger ones, too.
I remember Howard Johnson's. We used to pile in the car as kids.
Oh yeah, that's what they did. Let's pile in the station wagons. We're all going to Howard Johnson's.
And businessman John the Rock is betting they'll do it again. Howard Johnson's restaurants all but disappeared by 1990, eaten up by the competition. But LaRock recently spent more than $200,000 to reopen the last freestanding Hojo's, a location that dates back some 60 years.
Was there any hesitation on your part?
No, not really. If you believe in it, you can make it work.
He believes in it because he's lived it, starting right here as a dishwasher 3 decades ago.
It still feels like the original restaurant.
Right,
Was that important for you to keep that?
Oh, very, very important.
So he's preserved authentic details.
These are the old tables. They don't make them like this anymore.
And of course, the menu, with classics like the root beer float And the clam fry. Did we mention liver and onions?
Holy moly, look at my plate. I have 2 plates.
But what many customers relish most are the memories.
I grew up in Howard Johnson's practically.
It feels innocent to me. It feels like an innocent time of my life.
Does it feel like you're getting old?
It feels like that every day. I'm John, the new owner of Howard Johnson's here.
They come from all over, simply for a serving of nostalgia.
They even asked for my autograph because I think maybe once I'm gone, Howard Johnson's itself may be gone.
But save that thought for another summer. Right now, the hotcakes are selling like hotcakes.
In the 1930s, H.D. Johnson bought the Wayland Red Coach Grill and used it as the model for a new concept, a more upscale steakhouse restaurant chain called Red Coach Grills. While they had some success, they were not sufficiently profitable. Eventually, the last 15 Red Coach Grills were sold in 1983 to a company executive who closed them. In 1969, Johnson again tried a new restaurant concept, Ground Round. It was successful. Though not a Howard Johnson's restaurant, the Ground Round chain was company owned and franchised, thus increasing the Howard Johnson's company profit. By 1975, the Howard Johnson's company had more than 1,000 restaurants and more than 500 motor lodges in 42 states in Canada. The company reached its peak that year, but the late 1970s marked the beginning of the end for Howard Johnson's company. Because of the oil embargo of 1974, the Howard Johnson's restaurants and motor lodges, which received 85% of revenue from travelers, lost profits when Americans could not afford long trips or frequent vacations. Also, the company model of serving pre-made food with high-quality ingredients in traditional dining rooms was costly when compared to the innovations introduced by fast food outlets like McDonald's, which designed its products and restaurants to appeal to families with younger children. Around this time, the chain introduced Hojo Cola and other private label sodas, which disappointed some customers who preferred familiar products such as Coca-Cola or Pepsi. The company suffered from 2 infamous incidents at a property in the New Orleans Central Business District within 18 months of one another. The first was a July 1971 fire set by 2 irate guests who had been ejected from the hotel, which killed 6 people. The second, in January 1973, was a harrowing day-long siege. Former Black Panther Mark Essex used the hotel's roof as a sniper's perch, killing 3 police officers, the hotel's general manager and assistant general manager, and a couple from Virginia who were on a belated honeymoon. He also wounded policemen, firemen, and civilians. Then, in Jericho, New York, on November 8, 1974, singer-actress Connie Francis was raped at the Jericho Turnpike, Howard Johnson's Lodge. She sued the motor chain for their lapse in security and won a judgment of $2.5 million, one of the largest such judgments at that time, leading to a reform in hotel security. Her rapist was never found. H.B. Johnson attempted to streamline company operations and cut costs, such as serving cheaper food and having fewer employees. This strategy was unsuccessful because patrons compared this new era of Howard Johnson's restaurants and motor lodges unfavorably to the services they had previously come to know. In a further effort to make the company more successful and profitable, Johnson created other concepts such as Hojo's campgrounds and 3 penny inns for lodging, as well as deli, baker, ice cream maker, and chats for restaurants. All of these concepts failed, furthering the company's demise. In the late 1990s, the Howard Johnson's Candy Factory and executive offices in Wollaston were purchased and renovated by the Eastern Nazarene College to form the Adams Executive Center. Changes in ownership. In 1979, Johnson accepted an acquisition bid of more than $630 million from Imperial Group plc of London, England. Imperial obtained 1,040 restaurants, 75% company-owned, 25% franchise, and 520 motor lodges, 75% franchise, 25% company-owned. In 1981, Imperial recruited G. Michael Hostage, then CEO of Continental Baking Company and formerly Executive Vice President of Marriott Corporation, to replace Johnson as CEO. After 4 years, despite progress in a turnaround, Imperial reversed course and sold the company, having declined to entertain Hostage's proposal to lead a leveraged buyout. Imperial employed Goldman Sachs, who, with Hostage's assistance, sold the company to Marriott in 1986. In a contemptuous transaction, Marriott sold the Motor Lodge business and the Howard Johnson trademark to Prime Motor Inns in New Jersey Company. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Enjoy the video. Hi, as I do this, I'm trying to switch up my, readjust my YouTube channels to doing, obviously, these type of vlogs and different vlogs rather than do the other thing.